Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Oh! We've got a new champion. Sorry to imitate the movie 8 Mile with Eminem and the crew and Mekhi Phifer and the boys, but it was apropos with that introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio, coming at you as I love to do every weekday, right here on ESPN Radio. 250 plus markets across the United States of America, from New York to L.A. and everything in between. Not to mention Sirius XM ESPN Radio Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Jam-packed show coming your way today. Looking forward to talking to my man Damien Woody at the top of hour number 2, because it was special, without question, a special, special day. There is no doubt about it. The Philadelphia Eagles are the Super Bowl champions of the world. This is who they are. Never in the franchise history have they won a Super Bowl. The last time the football team won a championship was in 1960. That was about 8 or 9 years before the Super Bowl came into existence. But they stand here today in the year 2018 as Super Bowl champions of the world. This Stephen A. Smith Show, as is every Stephen A. Smith Show, is being brought to you and presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $620. Where do I count the ways? First things first, let me not be a phony, because I'm real. Damn it, I picked the Patriots on first take. But once Alshon Jeffrey sat up there and started talking junk, giving the Patriots bulletin board material, I got nervous Friday and switched up on the Philadelphia Eagles, because I lost faith, because I thought it was that proverbial black cat running around this franchise where something would happen that would jinx this team. That's what I expected. And I got to tell you something right now. I couldn't be happier that I was wrong on radio, not on first take, but that I was wrong. Because let me tell you something right now. As much as I love me some Mr. Kraft, and unlike my man Carlton, what he will decry based out of Tampa, formerly of Mass, as in Massachusetts, I am not a Patriot lover, and I am not a Patriot apologist. I do feel that way about Robert Kraft, though. But yesterday, I got to tell you something right now. What a game. It might be the best Super Bowl I've ever seen. It might be the best Super Bowl. I know that there were thrilling outcomes, Buffalo and the New York Giants, where, Giants, won because Buffalo's kicker missed the field goal. I know the Patriots last year coming back from a 28-3 deficit. I get all of that. I remember the Patriots against the Seattle Seahawks and Marshawn Lynch not getting the ball at the half-yard line and Malcolm Butler intercepted. I get all that. But yet last night's game, boy, that was something special to behold. Tom Brady, the reigning league MVP, okay, won another MVP award. How does he validate this? He only throws for 505 yards. 505 yards, 3 touchdowns, 28 of 48, a 115 quarterback rating. But he was outdone by Nick Foles, because Nick Foles didn't have to pass for 500 yards. He still showed up. 28 for 43, 373 yards, 3 touchdowns himself, just 1 interception. Nick Foles was spectacular. He was spectacular. There's no way around it. But guess what? Aguilar wasn't shabby. Alshon Jeffrey wasn't shabby. Corey Clement wasn't shabby, even though that touchdown he caught was questionable, because it looked like he bobbled it just a touch, but I had no problem with that touchdown call not being overturned, because for once in their lives, the NFL minded its damn business and let the players decide the outcome instead of videotape from New York. So I was very, very happy about that. Very happy. Having said all of that, there's a couple of emotions that I have for the New England Patriots. Number one, Tom Brady again was sensational. Gronkowski with 8 receptions for 107 yards in the second half, 116 yards on 9 receptions overall. Danny Amendola, 8 receptions for 152 yards. Chris Hogan, 6 receptions for 128 yards. These brothers were balling. Flat out balling. Now, you had no running game worth speaking of, even though James White scampered in for a 26-yard touchdown. But you really had no running game to speak of, and I get that and I understand it. But I got to tell you something. This Patriots defense was an embarrassment and a disgrace. Talk about a defense that didn't show up. You just take the D out of defense, call it offense, like it was offensive. Not that that is a word, because it is not. I'm engaging in ebonics to some degree, but damn it, that's how I feel. It was awful. Just awful. It was so bad, it had me questioning whether or not Matt Patricia deserved to be the head coach of the Detroit Lions. That's how bad their defense was. I mean, how do you justify this? The Eagles marched up and down and up and down and up and down the field all night long. I don't think they punted. It was just embarrassing. Eagles defense wasn't much better itself, just when it counted. Brandon Graham showed up, handled his business, strip sack of Brady, beat Shaq Mason to Brady, got the ball loose, picked up, 2 minutes, 25 seconds left. Brady had the ball after Nick Foles. And the Eagles had lost the lead, only for Nick Foles to drive them 75 yards in 7 minutes and a second to ultimately take the lead. We could get into the 4th and 1 call by Doug Peterson, where the reverse rather, and you got your tight end Burton throwing a touchdown pass to Nick Foles, who showed that he could catch better than Tom Brady, because when Josh McDaniels called a similar play for Tom Brady, who was wide open, Tom Brady couldn't catch. So much for the debate about who's the greatest athlete. You can say the greatest quarterback, but let's not put athleticism and Tom Brady in the same sentence. Can we refrain from that? I think we can. But in the end, the Patriots defense didn't show up. Matt Patricia, as far as I'm concerned, along with Bill Belichick, left a lot of questions to be desired. And I want to say this about Bill Belichick. And my apologies to Patriots Nation. My apologies to Robert Kraft, who again I revere. I love that man. But I got to tell y'all something. After what Bill Belichick did to Malcolm Butler, if I'm a free agent, I wouldn't want to go and play for the Patriots. I would have to think long and hard before I play for Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick did one of the cruelest things I've ever seen a coach on any level do to an athlete in my life. I know that Malcolm Butler was sick during the week. I know that he was, listed as having an illness on the injury report. I know that he was unable to practice to some degree. And I know how hardcore Bill Belichick can be about these things. But for Malcolm Butler, who started 97.8%, or who played 97.8% of New England snaps for this entire season, for Malcolm Butler to be approaching free agency, for Malcolm Butler to be that same dude who was looking for a new contract last year, didn't get it, and watched Bill Belichick bring in Stephon Gilmore from Buffalo, who, by the way, balled lights out yesterday. Gilmore balled. Wasn't anybody catching passes on him. And it hasn't been that way for him for most of this postseason. But for Malcolm Butler to be in that position, still play, still be a professional, still produce, to have seen every package imaginable, to know exactly what New England wants to do. And for Bill Belichick, not only to not play this man with any defensive snaps whatsoever, just had him in for a special teams play. For Malcolm Butler to find out right before the national anthem is being played that he's not going to play, leaving him on the sidelines in tears, having to be consulted by his teammates. For Eric Rowe to find out he is starting right after the national anthem is played. I don't know if I've ever seen anything that cruel by a coach. And then to give this bogus explanation, I'm trying to give my team the best chance to win. Excuse me, he's been playing for you all year long. Not just during the regular season, but during the playoffs as well. I mean, I know that Bill Belichick could be all business, but I never knew that the man could be that heartless. What in God's name could Malcolm Butler have done to be treated like that? It was one of the most egregious things I have ever witnessed. And I sit here before you today, ladies and gentlemen, ashamed at the human being Bill Belichick appears to be. Don't tell me Eric Rowe didn't give you a better chance to win than Malcolm Butler 97.8% of the times throughout an entire season. But suddenly that was the case right before the national anthem on Super Bowl Sunday. Bill Belichick should be ashamed of himself. And he should be made to answer for such a decision. You can't make him. We understand that. We're just talking wishful thinking here. But there's a reason a whole bunch of Malcolm Butler's former teammates came out. Brandon Browner and the list, Denard and all of these other guys came out in defense of him, Hightower and others. You know why? Because they know that Bill Belichick was wrong. And for one afternoon, Bill Belichick was really, really low. Low on the scale of human beings. It don't get much lower than that from a coach to a player. It really, really doesn't. 888-729-3776 says 888-SAY-ESPN. Back with more Super Bowl talk in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app. Join and start saving 5 cents a gallon today. 19 minutes past hour number 1 back in the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Start of hour number 2. Damien Woody, NFL analyst and former Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, will be on with us to explain precisely what transpired. Do we have our sound from Ryan Clark on Sports Center? Because he was talking last night or into the wee hours of the morning, post Super Bowl coverage, and he was talking about what happened with Malcolm Butler. Because I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, the man played every game this year. He played every game last year. He played every game the year before. You got guys now, he might not have been the best defensive player on the team or whatever, but he was up there. He produced. I mean, this is some inexcusable stuff by Bill Belichick. It's not about a wrong decision or whatever the case may be. Had you announced early in the week, listen, you don't practice, you don't play, or you've been sick, and because you've been sick, we might have to go in a different direction or whatever the case may be. Even if you don't let the world know, you don't let the Eagles know. I'm talking about Malcolm Butler. He doesn't find out until right before the national anthem. It doesn't matter that he was in a Super Bowl before. You look forward to this all your life. I mean, this is some heartless stuff. Listen to Ryan Clark talk about this.
There has to be something more than he just wasn't part of the game plan because he wasn't one of the best 11 players that we have, because we've all watched the film. We know he is. It seemed really last second to me, obviously through speculation, because he was so emotional. It seems like something you find out very late or right before the game.
You can really hurt your team that way really late before the Super Bowl.
I mean, you absolutely can. And also, too, it's the mind games it plays with the rest of the guys out there, with the Devin McCourties, with the Patrick Chunks, who are used to playing with Malcolm Butler, who know where he's going to be, who know in the nickel package, you know which guy Malcolm Butler will follow or match. I think it was a huge reason they lost, and a huge reason that the Philadelphia Eagles were so successful against the New England Patriots secondary today.
888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Carlton in Tampa, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, buddy. Carlton, are you there? Carlton, your signal's messed up. Call back, buddy. Call back. Let's go to Marcus in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Carlton. Go ahead, Marcus.
Hey, I want to get on that Malcolm Butler situation.
Sure.
Yeah, that was the most ridiculous call you can make in the Super Bowl in the last game? Are you serious? And then on top of that, you say that you're one of the greatest coaches and you don't even make an adjustment. And then on top of that, Eric Rowe got burnt by Alshon Jeffries while he scored that first touchdown. And you still don't make an adjustment or don't give the guy a chance to be. And I'm a Patriots fan. And I never see, even with, that was like a Phil Jackson move where he did the Carmelo. Are you serious? And then the guy wins you a championship. He saves you a loss again against the Seahawks, and he's been in multiple championships, and you don't even put him in the game, and you just put him on special teams. And then today we find out that he didn't even
for one play, and then playing one defensive snap at all.
And not at all. And that's so cruel. And I feel like that's a disrespect. And I feel like Bill Belichick has gotten away with a lot of things. And now we see why certain free agents don't want to come to New England. Like, even big-time wide receivers don't want to come there. Corners don't want to come there. Defensive players that I think that we should get don't even want to play for one of the greatest coaches because of his morals. Where is even your morals at? The respect. That is a disrespect and a slap in the face. And if I'm Malcolm Butler, I don't even think about negotiating even. And somebody should put it, and not to even change the subject, Stephen, somebody needs to put an APB out on Bill Belichick to see if he was drugged before that game. Because that is ridiculous. For you to do that to somebody that won you a Super Bowl before and been in multiple championship games with you, and you don't even give him one chance.
That you played 97.8% of the snaps all season long, including the playoffs that just finished reducing for you 2 weeks earlier.
Exactly. And then on top of that, you make an adjustment and you put Gilmore and Jeffries, and then Aguilar kills us. Torrey Smith kills you, and you still don't make an adjustment by giving this guy a chance to help you win Super Bowl?
It's shocking.
I blame this all on Bill Belichick.
I'm just saying that, but it's not enough to sit up there and say, well, Bill Belichick made a bad decision. Well, listen, he's earned the right. He's been to 8 Super Bowls, for crying out loud, as a head coach. All right. It's not about that. It's how you handled it shows it wasn't a football decision. That's the problem with all of this. That's the problem with it. It's the fact that it doesn't appear to be a football decision. You have personal angst with someone and let that get in the way of a Super Bowl title. It's unbelievable. Luke in Louisiana, you're live at Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, Stephen. Just wanted to, bring this up. Do you think Belichick may have been trying to almost like get back at Brady and Kraft by doing this, showing that he had some control over something?
Listen, I think if you're going to do something, you do something more directly. It's not like Belichick benched Gronkowski or Hogan or Amendola or somebody. No, sir. I don't think that has any legitimacy. That kind of argument has any legitimacy to what we're talking about here. It has nothing to do with it. I really, really don't believe that.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense what he was doing to bench a guy right before the game, threw the entire defensive team off, and that's the reason we had the highest yardage producing game in history.
Got it. I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. 888 say ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. More of your calls. Super Bowl talk coming at you in just a minute. And by the way, what would you do with Nick Foles? He's a Super Bowl MVP. But he ain't Carson Wentz. Do you keep him as an insurance policy for your star quarterback that just tore his ACL? Or do you market Nick Foles and trade him for the house, assuming you can get the house? Your thoughts on that and more coming up. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
George in Pennsylvania, you're live with Stephen A. What's up? George in Pennsylvania, you there?
Yes, I am here.
Go ahead, man.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, buddy.
Listen, I respect your show.
What is wrong with these phone lines today? This is not the day. The day after Super Bowl Sunday for y'all to be having problems with your phone. Get it together, people. Get it together. Let's go. Cantrell, you there?
Yeah, yes, I am there.
What the hell is wrong with y'all? Y'all are holding on the air and having conversations with people, and the whole bit y'all don't even know y'all on the air. Come on, get it together. Let's go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wanting to get a couple of things off. The first thing is, I believe that Bill Belichick has earned the right to bench Malcolm Butler, as cruel as it may be. Things like that, in part, when it looks bad in the Super Bowl, it looks good, and we call it the Patriot way, so I feel like that goes both ways.
Stop. That's the Patriot way?
I mean,
no. Answer my question. That's the Patriot way to let somebody know that they won't be playing at all when they've started every game, and they've played 97.8% of the snaps for the entire season, and to let them know right before the national anthem begins on Super Bowl Sunday that they won't be playing in the Super Bowl. Is that the Patriot way?
No, that's a cruel way, actually. But what I will say is Belichick has earned the respect to do something like that. If that's going to, because it wasn't for anything that wouldn't, for him to do something like that, he's not putting the football team first. That's what I feel. So I feel like it's something more serious than what we've seen. If he's doing that to compromise his football team, especially in the Super Bowl.
Don't you think it compromised them?
No, I do think it compromised him, but I feel like there was a more serious issue for him to compromise his football team because we all know Bill Belichick.
Well, let me say this to you. If it were a more serious issue, wouldn't Malcolm Butler know that? The man was on the sideline crying, bro. Kentrell, he was crying on the sideline. And then after the game, he could barely speak. He was like what he said, they gave up on me. And by the way, Kentrell, let me ask you a question. Is there anything, and I ask you this in fairness to you, Kentrell, let me ask you this question. Is there anything a player who started practically every game for you and played 97.8% of the snaps, who's been a starter, who knows everything, your system inside and out, is there anything that guy could have done that warrants him finding out he's not going to play right before the national anthem?
No way. Not the way Belichick works. Not before the game. Nah, there's just nothing you can do. Because once the game starts, you can't miss a practice. You can't do any of that. It doesn't. I can't justify it. That's just Belichick. But my second point was: do you think that the NFL keeps allowing themselves to not justify the catch rule, to keep things like suspense for the Zach Ertz catch? Or something like that.
You know what? I had no problem with the Zach Ertz catch because guess what? Once he caught it, he ran enough steps with the football that he became a runner. So it wasn't like you gotta defeat the ground per se and hold on to the ball. Once you're a runner, now your obligation is simply to break the plane of the goal line. That's it. And he clearly was running with the football. He had clearly transitioned into being a runner instead of a receiver at that particular juncture. And so once he dived across and broke the plane of the goal line, it was clearly a touchdown. And then even when the ball hit the ground and popped up in the air, he still came down with it before it touched the ground again. Clement, that touchdown was where you could make an argument that there was a little bobbling that had gone on and perhaps they should not have called that a touchdown. I disagree with it. I think it was a touchdown. But if the NFL had made that decision, it would have been consistent with some of the bogus calls we've seen from the NFL this year, Kentrell.
And that's why I wanted to ask you, do you think because we've had this catch rule for the last 4 seasons, we had this problem. Do you think they're allowing themselves not to make the rule specific so that if they get into a situation like the Steelers-Patriots game, they can say, okay, it wasn't a catch, so everyone won't get mad, or it was a catch, so everyone won't get mad. Do you think that's why they haven't set the rule yet?
Well, listen, I think that they're trying to figure it out. And I think the fact is they haven't figured it out yet, and it's problematic for them. I think that's what's going on. But I appreciate the call, Kentrell. Thank you so much. Mark in Massachusetts, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, buddy. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Stephen A?
I'm all right. Talk to me, man.
All right, so I'm a diehard Pats fan. I live here in Massachusetts. I watched the game. Do I think that Butler being pulled at the last minute was wrong? Probably, but there has to be a reason because Belichick and Brady going in, he's not going to blow the Super Bowl unless there was a reason behind it. And with all due respect to Butler, he thinks he would have made a difference. He hasn't done much all season.
Well, wait a minute. If he hasn't done much all season, why did he start 15 games?
Because who else have we had? So there
Stop. Think about what you just said. He started every game during the season. He started throughout the playoffs. So my point to you is, if you're asking a question, who else did we have? I'm going to return it right back to you. Who else did you have that you could justify making such a move for the Super Bowl?
I got it, but there had to be a reason.
Wait. But let me ask you this question, Mark. Why did there have to be a reason? Like, for example, Malcolm Butler was sitting on the field crying, man. He didn't know. So my point to you is, what could have been so egregious that he would not know until the start of the national anthem?
I don't disagree with you, Steve, but I don't know what the reason could be, and nobody seems to know. And there has to be something, because why, if he was that good,
all right, Mark,
that important, would Belichick
Mark, but you just said it. But Belichick, he's a great coach. He's a 5-time champion. He's this, he's that. He could get away with anything. So I would reverse it back to you, Mark. I mean, again, when you talk about what else did we have? Clearly Eric Rowe wasn't good enough, okay? Or Bodemisi or whatever his name was, somebody else that Belichick had inserted in there in a reserve role. This dude went from a starter to not playing at all. And then when you say there must have been something there, well, can we not go by what Bill Belichick said? He said it was a coach's decision. They were doing what they thought gave them the best chance to win. They acknowledged that he wasn't injured, and they acknowledged that it wasn't a disciplinary matter. So if it wasn't a disciplinary matter and he wasn't injured, what's the problem?
Was it a gut call? Nobody seems to have the answer.
Mark, what I'm saying to you is, let's just deduce this based on logic. The man was starting for you every game this year. The man clearly was the better option that you had opposite Stephon Gilmore. And on top of it all, he was healthy enough to play. And on top of it all, Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia said so. And on top of that, they said it wasn't a disciplinary matter.
Okay,
so what I'm asking you is, why does Malcolm Butler have to be the one to explain to us what the hell happened to to contribute at least to costing you a Super Bowl? Why can't it be Bill Belichick?
I'd like to think that he's a hell of a lot smarter and has more experience under his belt.
Or how about arrogant? How about arrogant because of that brilliance and those levels of accomplishment? How about that possibility, Mark?
It's a possibility, but it just hasn't seemed to be the case.
Do you know why I sound irritated with you, Mark? Not you personally, but I'm just talking to you respectfully. Do you know why I got a problem with you? Because I think you putting the onus on Malcolm Butler. No. Didn't Malcolm Butler win a Super Bowl championship for you by intercepting Russell Wilson at the goal line? Didn't he?
Wait.
Didn't he show you that there was an ability to make a play?
Not a lucky catch. You could also say that about the Giants winning 2 Super Bowls against us. Stuff happens, my friend.
But yeah, but not like that. It doesn't happen because of a coach's decision like that. Come on, Mark, you don't find that to be incredibly heartless? What could Malcolm Butler have possibly done, Mark, to justify not telling him until the national anthem was playing? Tell me that, Mark. Can you give me that answer?
No, nobody can.
Well, I'm just saying, what do you think that did to Chung and McCourty and those boys that have been out there on the field with him or every game this year? Come on, Mark. Come on, Mark.
I don't know, man.
Come on, work with me on that one, bro. Come on, I know you want to sit there and be a contrarian and you just want to disagree with me, but come on. You got to find something better than that. You can't justify this. Not this.
That Malcolm Butler would have made the difference in the game was my point.
I'm saying to you, I'm not acting like the Eagles would have scored 20 instead of 41 if he was out there. But he definitely had the ability to make a play. He's already proven that.
Oh, I don't disagree with you there.
Well, that's all we're talking about.
But I'm going to put my faith in Bill that there had to be a reason for the matchup.
No, and I'm saying to you why. Why do you have to put your faith in him considering how it was handled? He didn't announce that Malcolm Butler was going to be out. The man Malcolm Butler found out before they played the national anthem.
I don't disagree. It wasn't handled well.
All right, then. What does that tell you? That tells you there was some other agenda or motivation behind the decision. You don't just do that on a Super Bowl.
You can lean this either way, my friend.
Bye, Mark. Have a nice day. Mark just want to talk. You can't do something like that. Right before the Super Bowl, before the national anthem is played, a guy that has been a perennial starter for you finds out he's benched on the field, and Mark still want to try to justify it. See, that's nonsense. I can't listen to somebody that's devoid of that level of objectivity. I just can't do it. Valentine bouquets come in all shapes and prices, but how do you know which one's best when there's so many out there to choose from? It's simple. 1-800-Flowers.com is the Valentine's go-to. Right now, when you order early, you can get 24 multicolored roses for only $29.99 or upgrade to 24 romantic red roses for only $10 more. To order 24 multicolored roses for $29.99 or upgrade to 24 red roses for only $10 more, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click the radio icon, and enter code SAS. Order today and save at 1-800-Flowers.com, code SAS. Back with more of your calls in a minute. Super Bowl talk. That's what's going on right now. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I made it!
Let's go back to the phones right here at Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's go to Pat in Alabama. You're live at Stephen A. Talk to me. Pat,
hey, what's going on, Steve?
You're live on air, man. Go ahead.
Hey, I have a two-part question. The first part is, wasn't Malcolm Butler the one that was going through the contract dispute, or wasn't he the
that was last year before the season, in the off season. It was last off season. It was last off season. Yes.
Okay. Did he ever get that solved? And, no. That could possibly be part of the reason.
So let me get this straight. You think because he's approaching free agency, I'm going to start him all 16 games or 15 of the 16 games. I'm going to start him throughout the playoffs. And then I'm going to bench him and announce it to him during the national anthem or right before the national anthem or Super Bowl 52. Because
the Patriot way is, any issues we don't have it and we don't handle it outside the building.
Pat, that makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Last year he did that. You can look at Marshawn Lynch.
It makes no sense, Pat. It makes no sense. If you're going to do it, you ain't going to wait until Super Bowl Sunday to do something that you could have handled a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago. Makes no sense, but I appreciate the try. Good call. Cam in Florida, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A. We waited 13 years for this day. Only thing I want to say is, congratulations to the Eagles. And I feel like if anything during the offseason, we need to address our secondary because we given up 505 yards to Brady in the Super Bowl. That's been our weakness all season, so I feel like that should be a big issue come off season. Thank you for taking my call, man.
Might want to use Nick Foles to upgrade that position. Continue to upgrade your secondary. Both of Gronkowski's touchdown catches were against Ronald Darby, who you acquired from Buffalo the previous offseason. So you can look at it from that standpoint. There's no question that there's some things that the Eagles could do, and you could use Nick Foles to address that, or you could keep him on board. Who knows? Something to entertain. Y'all should think about that. Valentine bouquets come in all shapes and prices, but the best are at 1-800-Flowers.com. Get 24 multicolored roses for only $29.99 or upgrade to 24 red roses for only $10 more. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Hour number 2 up next, Damien Woody, Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots from years ago. Now an NFL analyst for ESPN. He will be on to talk to us about what transpired during Super Bowl 52. Plus, I'll get into that, and I'll be talking about that beatdown the Cleveland Cavaliers suffered at the hands of the Houston Rockets Saturday night in Cleveland. It is so much worse in Cleveland than y'all can possibly imagine. It's so much worse with LeBron James. I'll explain with that and more coming up in hour number 2. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. I'm honored and a privilege to have my next guest, Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, Obviously, they're not the Super Bowl champions right now. NFL analyst extraordinaire for ESPN, the one and only Damien Woody, is with yours truly. Damien, what's up, big boy? How you doing, man?
I see how you slipped that in there. There's nothing I can say about it. Eagles got it, man.
All
really
right.
Got it.
Why do they have it? Why did they have it?
Man, I want to give credit to Doug Peterson, man. Doug Peterson was aggressive all night. That's what you have to do to beat the Patriots. Obviously, you can't beat yourself, but you got to be aggressive. A lot of these teams are not aggressive when they play the Patriots. He was aggressive on multiple fourth down calls, just the way he was calling the game offensively. Kudos to Doug Peterson and that coaching staff.
Anything at all surprised you about how awful the New England Patriots defense was?
Well, I mean, listen, the Patriots defense is a bend-don't-break defense. I mean, they're a top 5 defense as far as scoring is concerned, but it seemed like Philadelphia did whatever they wanted to that Patriots defense. And I've always said the one thing about New England, their defense that's lacking is a premier player in their front seven. They didn't get a sniff. They didn't get a sniff on Nick Foles the whole game. So it doesn't matter what quarterback you have back there. If you're not getting pressure on him, they're going to pick you apart.
We're talking to Damien Woody right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. When I look at this New England Patriots team, and I don't want to take anything away from the Philadelphia Eagles, they were absolutely exceptional, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I know both teams looked bad defensively. The difference is that the New England Patriots were going up against a backup quarterback. The Philadelphia Eagles were going against Tom Brady. It's that simple to me. Is it more complicated for you?
Listen, remember, Nick Foles is a guy who threw 7 touchdowns in a game. I mean, in this system, he's played very well in this type of system. So, I won't give Nick Foles more credit than I think a lot of other people. But, I mean, listen, you ask any Patriots defender, they got to be highly disappointed in the way they played because Nick Foles just did whatever he wanted to do against that Patriots defense. It was like them running 7-on-7 out there in the Super Bowl.
When I look at the Patriots defense, I'm thinking along the lines of Malcolm Butler being benched. I got a big-time problem with this Damien Woody. I think it's an exercise in cruelty. I've never been so ashamed of Bill Belichick in my life. And, I mean, that takes Spygate, maybe not Spygate, but it takes the Spygate, the Flategate, and all of that stuff into consideration. I can't believe that this man notified Malcolm Butler right before the national anthem was being played that he wouldn't be in the lineup, and Eric Rowe didn't learn that he would be starting in place of Malcolm Butler until the national anthem had already been played. I understand that decisions are made, coaching decisions happen all the time, but to give the explanation that you're giving your team the best chance to win, there's no way in hell that was the case with a guy, Malcolm Butler, that played 97.8% of the snaps throughout the season. It makes no sense to me, Damien Woody. Can you make sense out of it for me?
No, I can't, and I'm not going to pretend to make sense out of it. Here's one thing I will say. I think Coach Belichick held this close to the vest because, when these things get out with time left, these things tend to leak out and it becomes a distraction. So I figure that's why he didn't say anything until literally right up until game time. But again, the reasoning of a football decision or matchups, I think is, listen, we're not stupid out here. I mean, most people who understand the game of football knows that Malcolm Butler is one of your best defenders. He's, one of your best corners. And for him to not play a snap on defense and to be strictly playing special teams, you did your team a disservice, but we don't know what the circumstances was that prevented him from being on the field.
Damien Woody right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. So what does that say? Is there any explanation that Bill Belichick can give that would suffice, or is it just one of those situations? He's Bill Belichick, so you know what, we'll get over it. Ain't nothing to think about here.
Well, I think, you mentioned on the first take this morning that, Coach Belichick is the best, the best head coach in North American sports. I mean, he's built up that type of cachet where he can make these decisions. People might question it, but at the end of the day, he's still Coach Belichick. So he's going to get a pass for it because of who he is. But boy, that defense could have used a Malcolm Butler last night.
How much of a pass does Matt Patricia get? He's the defensive coordinator. He's about to be the new head coach for the Detroit Lions. How much of a pass does he get, considering the fact that Bill Belichick is his coach and his boss, and that decision was made?
Well, listen, I think, there's going to be some people out there that are going to be prisoners of the moment, looking at how the Patriots defense was shredded. But I think, with the familiarity with the front office, GM, with the with the Detroit Lions, Bob Quinn. They're trying to establish a culture. But here's what I will say. I think people definitely have the right to question the assistants that come out of the Patriots that Belichick tree who become head coaches because they just haven't done well. So I'm sure that Matt Patricia is going to face the same amount of skepticism that Romeo Crennel and Bill O'Brien and so on and so forth who have gone on and have done mediocre to less than with other franchises.
One of the other storylines coming out of the Super Bowl was Gronkowski and how he alluded to possible retirement. When you heard him speak about that, what were your thoughts?
I thought he was sincere. I thought it was serious. I think players more so today than ever, are starting to really take their football mortality very seriously. I mean, this is a player in Gronkowski who's missed the equivalent of 2 NFL seasons due to various injuries. And then to compound that, this man is just coming off a serious concussion in the AFC Championship game. He's got a lot to think about. We know Gronk has been good with his money. He's talked about how he's only used his marketing money to really live on, and he banks all of his NFL money. So money is definitely not an issue. So I think this is a serious issue for him.
What about with Nick Foles? In light of the fact that he's the reigning Super Bowl MVP, Carson Wentz is expected back. There are folks speculating that the Eagles should look to trade Nick Foles. There are others that believe you should keep him in the fold. Where does Damien Woody fall in that mode of thinking, and why?
Well, I think the Eagles should keep Nick Foles simply because of the style of play that Carson Wentz plays on the football field. This is a guy who's coming off an ACL. Outside of Adrian Peterson, who's a machine, most of these guys who come back from ACL, they don't start playing like themselves until at least a year out from the injury. And then to couple that, the way that Carson Wentz plays, he plays with kind of a reckless abandon because he's such a physical specimen. So he likes to use his legs to go with the arm that he has, and he's susceptible to injury. So you never can have a good insurance backup, and that's what the Eagles have in Nick Foles.
Well, what about what they say about if you got 2 quarterbacks, that really means you have none because you don't have a definitive number one, and you can't have 2 guys battling like that because it disrupts chemistry and all of that other stuff. I'm not telling you I think that way, but this is something that you and I have both heard throughout NFL history. What about that notion?
Well, listen, there's arguments to be made on both sides. There's an argument to be made that, Nick Foles, the leverage couldn't be higher for Nick Foles right now, considering he's coming off a Super Bowl win. He's played lights out this postseason. There are teams that are desperate for a quarterback, and there are probably going to be teams that's willing to pony up compensation, and I mean pretty high compensation to get a guy like Nick Foles. So I'm aware of that. I'm just saying I believe that it will be in the best interest of the Philadelphia Eagles, who control his rights at a very less cost prohibitive contract to keep him on the roster.
You even feel that way if they're able to get a first-round pick for him?
Listen, that might change. I mean, a first-round pick that's big-time compensation. Considering the Eagles, I think they traded for a first-rounder in Sam Bradford when they dealt Sam Bradford. So they need more picks because they don't have a second or third-round pick, I believe. So. If the Eagles are able to parlay a first-rounder for Nick Foles, you definitely have to look at that. There's no question about it.
Damien Woody right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Should the Eagles be the favorites to win the Super Bowl next year? Do you have somebody else in mind?
I'm still picking the Patriots. I'm with the Patriots. The Patriots is the most consistent thing going on in the NFL right now. And I know Tom Brady's going to be 41, but they still have Tom Brady and Coach Belichick. I'm always treating the Patriots like Tiger Woods in the field from back in the day.
Appreciate the great work you've done throughout the season, man. Sorry about your New England Patriots, but as far as I'm concerned, they did it to themselves. I never expected their defense to get shredded like that. They gave up 41 points to Nick Foles, not Carson Wentz, to Nick Foles. I'm shocked by that, Damien.
It happens for the best of them.
Okay, it did last night. We know that much.
Yep, it did.
Appreciate you, bro. Thanks a lot. Yep. Thanks a lot.
All right now.
Damien Woody right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. That's Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, 888-729-3776. That's Say ESPN. Back to your phone calls and more in a minute. We've got a new Super Bowl champion. They are the Philadelphia Eagles. You are listening to Stephen A., who worked in Philadelphia for 17 years. I'm very, very happy for those people. I'm very happy for them. More with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio in a minute.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Sitting here watching all of these highlights. Philadelphians standing on top of poles, putting stuff on fire. Couple of windows broken up, vandalism. Not a good thing. We don't condone that. Never do that. But I will say this. It wasn't nearly as bad as one would expect from a team, from a city that doesn't have the greatest reputation. From booing and pelting Santa Claus with snowballs to cheering when Michael Irvin had to be placed out on a stretcher and we were wondering whether or not he was paralyzed, to a judge being placed in the basement of the old Veterans Stadium to deal with unruly fans immediately as opposed to them going to court weeks later or anything like that. Philadelphia hasn't had the greatest reputation in the world, but I'll tell you this much. It's a phenomenal sports town. Some of the best fans in the world. They care about their team. The interest doesn't wane. And I remember covering Allen Iverson with the Philadelphia 76ers making that run to the finals back in 2001. I remember that as clear as yesterday. And Allen Iverson and the Philadelphia community was transfixed on the Philadelphia 76ers on game days. Off days, people were still talking about the Eagles. Desperate for this team to win a Super Bowl. They won in 1980, didn't get it done against the Raiders. They won in 2004, didn't get it done against the Patriots. And now here we are in 2018, and finally, they got it done. For the first time in franchise history, for the first time since 1960, a championship in the sport of football has been brought to the city of Philadelphia. And I can't think of a town that deserves it more. I worked there for 17 years, and I got to tell you, I'm a native New Yorker, and I love the fans in that city, and I love who they are. I got to tell you, I'm very happy for them. They deserved this. They truly, truly did. And I don't think it'll be the only time they get there either. I think Carson Wentz is going to deliver a Super Bowl championship once he gets healthy. And Doug Peterson has proven himself as a coach beyond a shadow of a doubt. That man knows something about offense. He really, really does. They deserve credit where credit is due and respect where it is due. And Jeffrey Lurie, who once called the Philadelphia Eagles the gold standard, now can officially call them the gold standard because they have the gold. Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champions. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Get your quote at Progressive.com today. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Robert in Pennsylvania. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Okay. How you doing, Steve?
I'm all right. Go ahead.
Not a first-time caller, but a first-time getting through.
All right.
And I agree with you 100%. I live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm not a Pennsylvania team fan. But I was happy for the Eagles for what they did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they just played all the way. And yes, Nick Foles, when Wentz went down, I was like, oh, my goodness.
You thought this season was over. You thought this season was over, but he showed up.
He did get better.
He showed up.
He got better.
Hold on. He showed up. I give him a lot of credit where credit is due, no doubt about it. He deserved to be the MVP. He was special. Think about Malcolm Jenkins and all that Malcolm Jenkins went through this year. Not only having to play on the field, but having to address the Colin Kaepernick situation, speak on behalf of players across the negotiating table from NFL league officials as well as the owners, getting the league to commit to $89 million to address concerns emanating from the African-American community. And in the midst of doing all of that and having players speak against him because of it, thinking that he sold out and all of this other stuff, he went out there week in and week out and balled. And for the second time in his career, he's got a Super Bowl title. What about him?
Oh, my goodness. It's just like, I agree wholeheartedly. I can't dispute that at all. You know, like I said, they did what the Patriots do every day. Just play team ball, no animosity, and let's just get the job done and win the ball game. And whatever issues we have later, we'll take care of it after this game's over.
Gotcha. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you. Anthony and Cali, you're live with Stephen A. What's up? Anthony.
Hey, what's up, Stephen A?
Go ahead, man.
Can you hear me?
You're live on the air. Go ahead.
Man. I want to agree with you about the stuff that you were saying about Butler. That was way out of line what Belichick did. You can't do that to a player, especially right before the Super Bowl. And he practiced for 2 weeks as a starting cornerback. So something crazy had to happen for him.
Well,
to get
he didn't practice the whole 2 weeks. He was out ill for a few days and hadn't practiced. So that much is true.
Well, on Tuesday, but I'm just saying he was in the game plan the whole 2 weeks. You don't do that to your team. Put somebody in the game plan for 2 weeks and then take him out right before the game starts.
Yeah.
And secondly, about this catch rule. I don't know. Goodell makes $40 million a year. He can't even go face the media when the whole media is there. He just shows up on Wednesday instead on Friday or Saturday when everyone's there. And now these rules keep changing. I mean, the NFL has been going on for years and years and years, and we still can't get the catch rule right.
We can't get
somebody said earlier.
It's kind of strange. Yeah, I hear you. It's kind of strange. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, what can you do? The rules are the rules, unfortunately. And they're supposedly going to modify things in the weeks ahead to address some of the concerns, instant replay review and all of this other stuff. Hopefully they'll get that catch rule down pat as well, because that's the biggest thing going on. But I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Max in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A., you got to be happy for these people in Philly like you were talking about, especially Philadelphia Phil, that 99-year-old man sitting up in a booth. Got to feel good for him. But what I called in about was somebody whose name has to be remembered from this Super Bowl is Clement, the Eagles' third running back. That guy set the tone in this game, man. I thought if it wasn't Foles, he could have been the Super Bowl MVP just based off that one huge run. Yeah. And, of course, him as a running back catching that touchdown, I mean, that guy balled out, man. He came up big.
He did. He did ball out. I mean, listen, man, he didn't rush that much, only ran for 8 yards. But what did he do here? He caught 4 receptions for 100 yards, including that 55-yard run. The catch and run as well. So he definitely showed up last night. There was no doubt about that. He was very, very impressive. Appreciate the call, man. Bugsy in Indiana, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
What's going on, my man?
Go ahead, buddy.
Just I'm calling because I don't see any problem with the Malcolm Butler benching, because I mean, kind of, man, you kind of sound like a parent that's whining because their kid didn't play.
Mm-hmm. Why do you call up trying to annoy me? Do you just try to do that just to make yourself feel important? Because everybody knows you're going to remember the name Bugsy. There's Bugsy in Indiana. I've let you on the show a few times. Okay. So if you want to call up and make a point, that's fine. But don't call up to tell me how I sound. My point to you is the man found out right before the Super Bowl. When has that happened? I tell you what, rather than worrying about how I sound, tell me one time in NFL history, or in any sports for that matter, somebody found out, a perennial starter, okay, that's been at a Pro Bowl, or has been an All-Pro, or has been an All-Star, anything like that. Tell me when did they find out right before the championship game that they wouldn't be playing?
I can't recall that.
Of course you can't recall that, because it's never happened. And the fact of the matter is that when Bill Belichick said, let's go to his reason, Bugsy, he said it wasn't disciplinary, and he said that it wasn't due to injury. So basically he said it gave us the best chance to win. So you play a guy 97.8% of the time. He started 15 of the 16 games for you. On top of it all, he started both playoff games. All right. He's played opposite Stephon Gilmore. All right. This is what he's been doing. He won a Super Bowl for you before with that terrific play against Seattle. All you need is one play. Let me ask you this question. Based on that, does it make any sense that he didn't play?
Well, knowing that Bill Belichick's track record, he's been to like 30 freaking Super Bowls.
That was not my question. I didn't ask you how many questions that Bill Belichick has been to. And if I wanted to be like you, I would tell you that's inaccurate, because he's been to 8 Super Bowls, not 30. But that's nitpicking, and we both know I'm not trying to do that. What I am saying to you is this. That doesn't happen. And the thing about it is that it's not like the dude with some reserve. And even if you tried to bench him, what if you benched him because it was disciplinary? What if you benched him because he was ill? What if you benched him because he got on your damn nerves and you said so? Everybody would understand that. Whether we approved or disapproved, this guy didn't find out until during the national anthem, man.
Well, nobody knows really what's going on, but
we know that.
It's just a system.
We know that. That's what he said. A system. System implies that this is just the way things are done. Tell me when Bill Belichick has ever done that. When has any coach? When has any coach ever done that? When has any coach ever done that? When? When?
He could pick me and you up. And
hold on. I didn't. Bugsy, you're going to get a dial tone. I don't play that on this show. You answer my questions. This ain't Bugsy's show. This is mine. Now, I asked you a question. When has he ever done it? You said it's his system. When has he done that? It's never happened.
Crazy things, man.
It's never happened. Never. Ever. Bye, Bugsy. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show in a minute. I'm going to get into LeBron James just a little bit, too. Stick around. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Valentine's bouquets come in all shapes and prices, but the best are at 1-800-Flowers.com. Get 24 multicolored roses for only $29.99 or upgrade to 24 red roses for only $10 more. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Also, as I just said, it comes in all shapes and sizes. Right now, when you order early, you can get 24 multicolored roses for only $29.99 or upgrade to 24 romantic red roses for only $10 more. To order 24 multicolored roses for $29.99 or upgrade to 24 red roses for only $10 more, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click the radio icon, and enter code SAS. Order today and save at 1-800-Flowers.com, code SAS. Ladies and gentlemen, as y'all know, as y'all are fully aware, Valentine's Day is rapidly approaching. And the Stephen A. Smith Show has a request, or rather, we don't have a request. We have received thousands upon thousands of requests. Ladies and gentlemen, they've asked for the Love Doctor. Remember the Love Doctor that I stole from Martin Lawrence? Now get on out of here. I'm the Love Doctor. And I'll give some advice. Well, evidently, folks have asked for his return. The Love Doctor will be in full effect for at least one segment each show, starting tomorrow through Valentine's Day. So for the fellas that need some advice, for the ladies that need some advice about their man, particularly during these sports seasons, your boy is here. Love Doctor. Now get on out of here, Love Doctor. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Before I get back to the phones, let me bring up something that before I forget. The Cleveland Cavaliers lost another game the other day. They're like 7-13 over their last 20 games. Tyronn Lue is not going to get fired, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, our resident NBA insider extraordinaire. But let me also say this to you. The Cleveland Cavaliers got destroyed Saturday night. Absolutely, positively destroyed and embarrassed by the Houston Rockets. CP3 put on an absolute show, 22 points, 11 assists. The Houston Rockets, look at this number, y'all. The Houston Rockets were a plus 47 with Chris Paul on the floor. Plus 47. They were a plus 11 with James Harden on the floor. With Chris Paul on the floor, they were a plus 47. They connected on 19 of 51 three-pointers. Cleveland looked completely lost, disinterested. LeBron James had shot 3 of 10 from the field, finished with 11 points. He looked horrible. Ladies and gentlemen, he looked horrible because he looked completely and utterly disinterested. Let me say this right now. LeBron looks like he's damn near quit on this team. Now, I'm not saying he has. I'm not saying that's definitive. I'm not saying that's something that's going to be ongoing. I'm saying to you that Saturday night, he looked like he completely quit on this team. That's how awful he looked. That's how absolutely positively awful he looked. And the team looks like they've quit on him. Right now, the way the Cleveland Cavaliers look, they ain't coming out of the East. Could you imagine if Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics end up coming out of the East instead of LeBron? Could you imagine how bad that will look? I don't know if y'all really took that into account. how much of a slap in the face towards his legacy it would be if Kyrie Irving ended up coming out of the East. And LeBron's probably not going to stay in Cleveland. And if he stays in Cleveland, where's he going to go? Houston? San Antonio? Remains to be seen. It absolutely positively remains to be seen. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Your calls to close out the show in a minute with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Back to the Stephen A. Smith Show we go right here on ESPN Radio. By the way, I loved that Super Bowl commercial with Morgan Freeman. That was hilarious, where he was rapping and all of that stuff. Who was he rapping over? Whose lyrics was he rapping over? Missy Elliott's. That was hilarious. I loved that commercial. Let's just say that the whole Eli Manning, Odell Beckham Jr. commercial, what was it, Dirty Dancing? Was that having the time of my life? I don't know what to say, okay? I'm just not going to go there. All I'm going to say to you is this. The commercial was very interesting, and it was very different. That's all I'm going to say about that commercial. And I'll just leave it at that. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. To the phones we go before we get on out of here for the day. Let's go to Maurice in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. I just want to talk about that Belichick decision. I'm dealing with the same thing with my son in high school sports right now. And I'm telling him that, I don't care how good of a coach you are, you can make a bonehead decision that affects not only that immediate game, but affects the team morale all around. And the same thing is happening on his team, where the coach is making dumb decisions. You know, me and other dads, in the stands who played the game and coached the game, we seeing the same train wreck mistakes, on offense, defense. This is basketball, though, not football. But the same principle applies. But you do like Belichick did, that decision he made, it not only affect the player, it affects the team. It affects the chemistry dynamics. When you do something like that and you do it without warning, without precedent, without any responsibility, it looks like it.
I got it.
I don't care.
You're absolutely right. There's no denying it. You're absolutely right. There's absolutely no denying it. I appreciate the call, man. Thank you. Let's go to Gary in Virginia. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Gary, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen. Long time, low talk. We've talked before.
Thank you. Go ahead. Real quick.
You said call back anytime I want to, so I'm calling in. Mr. Butler, I feel sorry for him. Well, if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm calling his agent.
I'm sorry. I couldn't understand that last part you said.
Okay, if I'm Howie Roseman, I'd be calling his agent.
Yeah. I don't blame you one bit. They could use another corner to join with Darby. They absolutely could. You have a good point there, Gary. I like that call. I appreciate the call, buddy. Thank you so much. Let's go to Don in Connecticut. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Don.
Yes, Stephen A. About the Belichick thing, that has been his behavior all along. It's all because of money. They did it to a player many years ago. Super Bowl Saturday, they cut the player. And then now Blunt last year had 50 yards away from collecting a bonus. What they do, what Belichick did, bench him. Played in the Super Bowl, and he collected his bonus. Then going to ask him to take a pay cut to stay in New England for this season. Hell no, I would have gone myself. His behavior has been consistent. They treat players like that all because of money. They treat Vince Wilfork like that. They treat Randy Moss like that. And the list goes on. A whole set of brothers they treat like that just because of money.
I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look that up. I want to know which player he cut the day before the Super Bowl. And I know you say stuff with money or what have you, but I'm not sure that was the case with Butler. Butler's going to be a free agent. I don't know if money had anything to do with it. And you started in practically every game. You started him throughout the playoffs. I mean, this is entirely different. This is beyond the pale to me. That's just the way.
Man.
I got you. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Dan in Kansas City, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hi, Stephen A. Congratulations to the Eagles.
Eagles, I know you're looking for the championship parade Thursday, even though I picked the Patriots.
I ain't going to the parade, though. I'm not going to the parades.
Yeah, why would Belichick do that to Malcolm Butler after what he did against the Seahawks, picking up Russell Wilson like that? I can't believe it.
It's really bad. It's really, really pretty bad. But how about him starting practically every game for you and producing in the playoffs as well? And then all of a sudden finds out. And not only that, if you're going to bench him, bench him. But how does he find out right before the national anthem is played?
I couldn't believe it. I was wondering why he was crying. I couldn't believe it.
No. Appreciate the call, man. Donald in Texas, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Donald. Donald, are you there? Donald in Texas, are you there? Let's go to Quadir in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, man.
Hey, Stephen A., long-time listener, big fan of yours. I've been a Houston Rocket fan since way back in the T-Mac era. T-Mac's definitely my favorite player, but I feel like, this is our year. We can definitely top the Warriors this year. My only concern, I guess, with my question is, what other depth do you think that we should, acquire before the trade deadline, or if we should make any moves? I feel like Ryan Anderson is kind of inconsistent. Yes.
The Rockets, listen, you got to stand pat because you can't give away Ryan Anderson. He's owed $60 million, or at least most of a $60 million deal over he was owed $60 million coming into this season for the next 3 years. You'd have to find somebody to take his contract. You don't really want to get rid of CP3 or James Harden. You'd love to get your hands on an Anthony Mason. You'd love to get your hands on somebody else. You don't need the Tyreek Evans of the world or people like that because Ariza and Eric Gordon and those boys are producing. Plus you're flowing. You don't want to disrupt the apple cart. So those are the kind of things that you have to consider. So it's pretty difficult to say exactly what, especially with other teams struggling. Golden State struggling defensively. In the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers look horrible. So it's a lot of things to take into consideration in that regard, but we'll see. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Barry in North Carolina real quick. You're live with Stephen A.
Yes, sir. Stephen A. Listen, man, I'm about to make what you might consider a very blasphemous statement about Belichick not deciding to play Butler last night. If I'm Robert Kraft, and I'm not him, but if I'm him and I get any kind of inkling or hear any kind of thing that's coming out about any kind of sabotage, I might consider actually trading or firing Bill Belichick. Listen, how do you explain, and I know everybody talked about it, you've talked about it, Malcolm Butler has covered the best, this year, the best wide receivers in the league, and Julio Jones, AB at times. And you don't play that, man? Well, listen, let me tell you this. Before Super Bowl 46, the Patriots consistently made roster moves the day before games, throughout that season. Now, remember Tyquan Underwood? This was the night before the Super Bowl. The team released him the night before the Super Bowl and promoted defensive lineman Alex Silvestro off the practice squad. They said the move was not discipline-based, but a pure football decision based on needs specific to the Super Bowl 46 game plan, according to a source. So basically back then, it was the same thing before he cut somebody the night before the Super Bowl. So I guess it has happened before. Yes, sir. And my thing is, even in the fourth quarter, when you clearly see your defense needs help, and you still don't play him, that's just questionable. Very questionable.
It's beyond questionable. It's beyond questionable. It's downright cruel, especially when a man's been starting for you and producing for you all year long. I mean, it's just a low-life move. I don't know if it gets any crueler than that. I would strongly consider wanting to play for Bill Belichick after something like that.